May Allah bless us with goodness in dunya and akhirah, protect us from all difficulties, trials, and tribulations in dunya and akhirah. Ameen. Ya Rabbal Alameen. So in our last lesson, we have entered into the ruling on bandages and castings with regard to those who have injuries in the body parts of wudu. And we mentioned about the obligation of tayammum if a person has an injury and he wants to take ablution and part any of the body parts of wudu cannot be reached by water due to the injury. So the first any situation and we mentioned is about if the injury is not covered. If the injury is not covered, then it is compulsory to use water if it is possible. If not, then he washes any the body parts that are healthy, that is not affected by the injury, and then he does any tayammum. Then he does any tayammum, and this particular tayammum is basically to cover the part any of the injury that cannot be covered by water. And it is compulsory any upon him when he does any the tayammum that he wipes any the dust over that injury. If that is possible, if it is not any possible, if there is a lot of pain, then it is not any compulsory for him any to do that. So this is the first any situation. So the first any situation, a person has an injury and there is no bandage or plaster. So he has to do the tayammum. If he said that the water cannot reach the injury, otherwise it will lead to a lot of pain, immense pain, all the 8 conditions of pain that we spoke about. That the recovery will be at the later time, and likewise it will cause change of skin color. If it can cause any dysfunction of that limb, or it can cause death, for example. Then he doesn't use the water, then he does the tayammum, and with that, when he does the tayammum, it is compulsory upon him to rub all of the body parts of tayammum with dust, inclusive of the injury. Tamam? If that is possible, as what we mentioned. The second situation, the author speaks about a person and he has an injury and there is a plaster or a bandage. This is where we stopped in our last lesson. So we gave the example of I give the example of my right arm. And if I have injury on my right arm and I put a plaster or bandage, so it is the same sequence. I have to take any ablution. When comes to washing of my hands, then I do the tayammum. This is the preferred opinion. I do tayammum first. I do any normal tayammum, but now there is a bandage. There is a bandage. This is not the same as the first situation. First situation, no bandage. So no bandage, and we speak about the compulsion of making sure that dust covers the area of the injury. But now there is any bandage. So we take wudu as per normal. When comes to the body part that has the bandage, then when we do tayammum. So when we do tayammum, we only do tayammum on the body parts that has no bandage. So we wipe the dust on the body parts that is not covered by the bandage or plaster. And there is no need for us to wipe the bandage with dust. This is the thing that we have to to understand so that we do not confuse with the first situation. So first situation, we mentioned that we have to wipe the injury with dust. This is with regard to if there is no bandage. But the second situation, if there is a bandage, there is no need for us to wipe the bandage with the dust. So we just do the normal tayammum. And then when we wash our body part, when we wash our hands, and after the tayammum, then it is compulsory upon us to wipe the bandage with water. This is where we will talk today. We mentioned about this today. So the author will speak about this, that it is compulsory that we wipe the bandage. Wipe the bandage with what? Not with dust, but with any water. Why is this so? This is to cover the body parts that the water cannot reach other than the injury. Because the injury it is replaced by tayammum, but there are other body parts that is covered by the bandage that is not part of the injury. So that is why it is compulsory upon us to wipe the bandage with water. Then we continue our ablution. So in sequence, we wash our face first, right? Because the injury is on our right arm, for example, or left arm. So we have to wash our face first. Sequence is compulsory. Remember, in wudu, sequence is compulsory. You cannot straight away tayammum, because you have to wash your face first. The time of washing your hands has not come yet. When is the time for you to wash your hands? After you wash your face. You can only wash your hands after you wash your face, since we say sequence is compulsory. So after I wash my face, then I have the option whether I want to do tayammum first or wash my hands first. But here we mentioned which is the better opinion. The better opinion is that we do tayammum first. We do tayammum first. So we do our tayammum. So we wipe our face. Our face now is wet because we have just washed our face. We wipe our face with something like a towel, and then we let it dry for some time. Then we do the tayammum. We do our tayammum, one tap for the face, one tap for the hands. But our hands now there is bandage, right? So we only wipe the dust on the body parts that has no bandage. After that, we wash our hands. We wash our hands, the parts that we can wash, exclusive of the bandage. Of course, we don't wash the bandage. We wash any other body parts other than the bandage. Then we wipe the bandage with water. After that, we continue to wipe our head and wash our feet as per normal in wudu. So this is where the author is going to speak about this. And today, inshallah ta'ala, we will also address the issue of whether it is compulsory for me to make up those prayers that I pray in this way. And what are the conditions, whether it is compulsory to make up or does not compulsory to make up. There are few things. So we go back into our book. The author mentioned فَإِنْ احْتَاجَ لِإِنْصَابَةٍ أَوْ لُسُوقٍ أَوْ جَبِيرَةٍ. And if a person is in need of a plaster or bandage or casting because the wound is severe. Normally, a person is not in need of bandage, casting, plaster. If the wound is not any severe, just a small cut, there is no need for even any plaster. Tamam. But now the author mentioned now this particular person's, the doctor say, for example, that you need to put this plaster, otherwise your wound will become severe. It will lead to diseases. It will lead to infection. So you have to apply something, a bandage and your plaster. So he applied. Wajaba wad'uha ala tuhrin. Last week also I mentioned that it is compulsory that when we apply the plaster or the bandage or the casting, that we apply ala tuhrin. So if you look at the Arabic text, ala tuhrin, what the author meant is to be in a state of ablution. Before I put the bandage, I am in wudu. I have wudu. This is the meaning of tuhur. And this is the opinion in the Mazhab al-Imam Shafi'i. Although there are so many differences with regard into this. So what I will say is that I will just explain to everyone the opinion in our madhab. This is the qawl mu'tamad. Mu'tamad says that you have to be in ablution. That you have to be in a state of ablution. Even though some scholars mention tohor here, meaning there's no najis on the wound. And this is the opinion of Imam Khatib al-Shirbini. Maybe you can write this down. And the reason I would like to mention this difference because sometimes we need this opinion. Sometimes it's very difficult. Last week somebody asked me any question after the class. Somebody followed on YouTube and then asked me the question, how can that be possible? That if a person he just had an accident and was sent to the hospital and the doctor placed the bandage and then we expect him to take ablution. Is that practical? Especially when people are in pain. When people are immense pain, do you think people will think about wudu? Sometimes even this ruling, you might forget. Especially when people are in shock, for example, after an accident and an explosion, for example. Right? So normally any people tend any to forget. But here any the author any is saying when you remember, it is compulsory any upon you. If you forget any, it is forgiven. But we have any another opinion, and this is not any what according any to the qawl and mu'tamad, the prevailing judgment in the madhab, is that the meaning of tohor here is that at least any you make sure that there is no filth at the place where you are going to apply the bandage. Tamam? And this is an easier yani opinion. This is easier yani to be applied because normally even in hospitals, before they apply plaster, casting, bandage, what will they do? They will sterilize any the area, the injury. They will wash, correct? No? At least any they will wash. I've seen with my own eyes. Recently, just 2 months ago, somebody had a what you call it, a cut any with 10 stitches. So I saw any the process any how any they put the anesthesia, then after they apply the stitches any they use any water to wash before any they apply the bandage, and beforehand also they put any some form of medicine and ointment. So this is what any hospitals, doctors any normally do, because normally people do not just any put any bandage without any doing any form of sterilization and uh, cleansing. If that is the case, then that is an easy opinion for us, because normally a lot of people any will tend any to ask in this question: how can any we expect any somebody to take any wudu, or tell any the doctor that okay, I want to take any wudu first, do not apply the bandage first. I'm not any in wudu. But ala kulli hal, here any the author going back any to the book of Umdatusaalik. Of course, any the author yani hold on any to the prevailing judgment in the madhab. So he is saying that you have any to put while any you are in a state any of ablution. Then any you apply any the bandage. Then any you apply the bandage. Why do our fuqaha mention this condition? Why? The reason they mention this any is that they do an analogy between Khuff and Jabira. You see, in the chapter of Khuff, if you remember, that you can only place any, you can only wear your Khuff after ablution, correct? After you have make any a complete any ablution, then you wear your footgear. Then after that, then you can wipe any on your footgear. Yani after your wudu becomes nullified. So it is any the same ruling any here applied any in bandages. And before any you put before you wipe any on your bandages, you have any to take any ablution. So it is a kind of analogy any that is done any by our scholars any in the Shafi'i madhab. So that is why any they say that you have any to be in a state of ablution. So we try any our best. I mean, if any we happen any to be in such a situation, at least any we understand there is such any a ruling that we have any to take any our ablution and before any we apply bandage. Sometimes any minor injuries, any you can do that. You can just take any ablution, right? If it is a minor, any injury and you remember, then it is compulsory. And based on the qawl al-mu'tamad here meaning the prevailing judgment and madhab is that it is compulsory, not sunnah. This is wajib. That's what he mentioned here. So he said, "Wala yasturu illa ma la budda minhu." So when he apply any the bandage, he must any apply any the bandage only at the point where it is needed. Okay, this is any important, huh? Okay, now I do not know whether last week I have explained this. If my injury, for example, is just here, right? If I can put a plaster just I need to cover this injury, then it is not permissible for me to put a bandage that covers any this whole arm, because now I can put a plaster. But if the injury is deep, if I put any the plaster, if I don't have bandage to have bandage any around it, the plaster might fall off. The plaster might fall off. So the doctor says that you must apply bandage that tie around around your hands. So now what happened was that even any the part where there is no injury is covered by bandage, correct? Na? So now there is this any issue. Not only we are covering the part of our injury and the part any needed any to cover for our injury, but we are also covering any the part that has no connection any to the injury. But since it is needed to tighten, to be tightened. To tighten any plaster, for example, then the parts that is not covered any by the injury also any must be tightened any by the bandage. So if that is the case, if there is any need any to do that, then it is permissible. The reason any the author and he mentioned all these things and because later he will speak about whether you need to qada or not qada your prayers if this is the case. So he will speak about if the bandage takes excessive body parts that is not needed, you have to make qada for all the prayers. So that is the reason when we apply the bandage, we have to make sure that the bandage that is applied is solely to tighten the part of injury, and this is needed. This is needed. Needed meaning if you do not apply the bandage, the plaster will fall off. So you need a bandage to tighten the wound. You need a bandage to tighten, especially when there are stitches. You need a form of bandage that is tightened to make the wound close so that it can heal faster. So as such, even the body parts that is not covered by the injury also has to be applied on bandage because we have to tighten the injury. So is this acceptable? Yes, this is acceptable because there is a need. But imagine if your injury is here and you cover the whole hand from your wrist all the way to your elbows. Some people, for example, their injury is just this part. But they cover all the way from here, all the way to the elbow. Now we ask this question. Is there a need to do so? Is there a need to cover from your wrist all the way to your elbows when your injury is just this part? That you just have to apply this part? In this situation, and if you do that, then this part there has no relation to the injury. And you covered it with bandage, meaning water cannot reach this part. If that is the case, then you have to make up for all your prayers if you do tayammum. So what is the difference in discussing about this issue is whether you have to make up the prayer or not make up the prayer. So this is one of the conditions. Is that the bandage that is applied solely to the injury or to tighten the injury. If anything there is more than that, then you have to make up the prayer. That is why the author mentioned here. He said, "Wala yasturu ila ma la buddha minhu." Maybe you can underline this. Ma la buddha minhu. Underline, you can underline the Arabic, you can underline in the English. So basically what he's saying that it is compulsory that you make sure that the parts that are covered are only the parts that are needed to be covered. Needed to be covered. Tamam? If you take more than that, what happens? If you take more than that, you have to make up your prayer without any question. You can take ablution, you can do tayammum, but this prayer that you prayed, you have to make it up. Because there are some parts that are covered which are not meant to be covered. فَإِنْ خَافَ مِنْ نَزْعِهَا. Now the author mentioned a person puts the bandage not in a state of wudu. So we say it is wajib. Here it is wajib. Wajib that you put the bandage when you are in a state of ablution. This person placed the bandage, then he remembered. If he said, I forgot to take ablution, but now I have already applied the bandage. Is it compulsory that he remove the bandage and take wudu and apply the bandage again? The author mentioned that if that is possible, without any fear of harm, without any fear of all situations that we mentioned, death, the fear of death, the fear of dysfunction of any body part, the fear of change in the color of the skin, the fear of what we call it, the prolonged healing, the fear of infection. That if you take out any of the bandage, it might be affected into other areas. Then it is not wajib for you to take the bandage. And you are not sinful because you forgot. If you forget, you are not sinful. Last week I mentioned, if you do not know, if people who doesn't know this ruling, they are also excused. Our scholars mentioned this is one of the situation where a jahil is excused, because normally these are any the parts any in fiqh any that requires any study. The common layman, they are excused, but for people who have been following and now any you have understood any this ruling, you are not excused. You are not excused, because now you possess any the knowledge. But if you forget, you are forgiven. But if this situation, if a person say, I can remove the bandage, no problem. I can just remove the bandage, take ablution, put it back. Is it wajib? Is it wajib any to do so? Yes, it is wajib. Yani if the doctor any says that no issue, this is a small cut, we can just replace any the bandage. You take ablution and then you put the bandage again. You see, sometimes any like places like in Singapore, some any of these places and hospitals, any they will have a review. They will have a consultation again, right? Yani, for example, once any the bandage and it has been placed, after 2 weeks, you have to come and replace the bandage. So the nurse any will do what you call it, this process any again. So speaking any about nurse any, this also another issue any madhab, because if the nurse any is a female, right, and she is any applying any the bandage, and there are no any male nurses any, for example. So we take any ablution, right, and then she apply any the dressing, the bandage. So what can we say now? In this any situation, of course, we can follow the opinion of Imam Abu Hanifa or Imam Malik, and we do taqlid. And because in the mazhab Imam Abu Hanifa, touching male and female doesn't make any wudu invalidated, just like in the case of tawaf, right? So now anyway, if a person yani is going to change your bandage, so again and you have to make sure before he or she places any the bandage for you, take ablution. And usually any by the second week, by the third week, the wound any is not as severe any as the first instance. So you can take ablution, correct or not? And you can take ablution. Even though you can wash any the wound any with water. Right? But because any of healing any they have to apply again any the bandage and so on. So once any you take any the ablution, then you apply any the bandage. So here it is compulsory that you remove the bandage and take ablution and place the bandage again. Unless any if you fear harm. This is what the author mentioned. He said, فَإِنْ خَافَ مِنْ نَزْعِهَا, if he fears to remove the bandage, and because he has no ablution. Why? What is the reason he wants to take out the bandage? To take ablution. But now any he fears any for himself because of harm. Then no need any for him to take the bandage. وَجَبَ الْمَسْحُ عَلَيْهَا كُلِّهَا بِالْمَاءِ. Then it is compulsory upon him yani, to wipe any the whole bandage any with water. To wipe any the whole any bandage any with water. Yani after yani he takes any the when he takes any the ablution, when he wash any his hands, if the left part any of the hand and has bandage, so he wash any his right hand, and when comes any to the right hand that he has bandage, he wipe any the bandage with water. All parts of the bandage. The author mentioned all parts any of the bandage. And if the bandage any covers any from the wrist all the way to the elbow, you have to wipe everything, and casting also. When the person has a broken hand, the casting any covers all the way from the wrist any to the elbow, and that is required. Why? To hold any the hand, so that the hand does not move. So it takes up all the way any from the wrist all the way any up to the arms. Sometimes any you normally casting when there is broken bones, the casting any will cover all the way from the wrist any to the half any of the arms. So if you ask any this question, is it required any? Why can't the casting any be only in this part? No, because casting now different because of broken bones. It has any to make sure any that the hand doesn't move. So the area that is covered any is far much more than injury. Clear, inshallah? So he has to wipe all the casting any all the way. Wipe any with water. Ma'a ghusli sahih wa tayammum kama taqaddama. As what any I mentioned, yani take any ablution, Yani all the body parts that he can wash, he wash. And then he does any tayammum when he comes to the part of the injury. So if the injury is at the hands, he wash his face. This tertib. That's what the author mentioned. Tertib wa tayammum kama taqaddama. Taqaddama here meaning the tertib. Yani he has to wash the face. When comes into the hands, he does tayammum, then he wash the body parts that he can wash. As pertaining to the bandage, he just wipe the bandage with what? Not with dust, huh? With water. Do not confuse this with the first situation. First situation, and we mentioned wipe with dust. That is if the injury is not covered by plaster or bandage. But if the injury is covered by plaster or bandage, we wipe with water. فإن كانت في غير عضو تيمم لم يجب مسحها بتراب. If the bandage is placed other than the body parts of tayammum, that is the face and the hands, it is not compulsory to wipe it with dust. Yani for example, the face, there is a injury on the face. Afwan, not the face. Face is a body part of tayammum. The feet, there is injury on the feet. There is a cut. And he doesn't apply any bandage. Is it compulsory that he wipe it with dust? No. Why? Because wiping with dust is only referred to the body parts of tayammum. And the body parts of tayammum, there are only two. What are the body parts of tayammum? The face and the hands. The feet is not part of the body parts of tayammum. So there is no such thing as wiping dust on the feet. There's no such thing. Although some people do it. Some people they have injury on the feet. They take ablution, and then after that they wash any part of the feet, and then they take some dust and they wipe at the injury of the feet. There is no such thing, because the feet is not part of the body parts of tayammum. Clear, inshallah. Then the author mentioned فَإِذَا أَرَادَ فَرْضًا آخَرَ لَمْ يُعِدْ الْجُنُوبُ غُسْلًا. Last week a person asked about junub. So now the author is going to speak about a person who has to bathe the obligatory bath and he has bandage. For example, he has bandage here at the chest. Here, this part, bandage. And he wants to bathe the obligatory bath. And he cannot remove the bandage. So how does he do it? So now, he has the choice to take ablution first or tayammum first. Afwan, to take the bathing, to do the bathing first or to do the tayammum. Which is preferable? Preferable is do tayammum first. So I do tayammum, one tap for the face, one tap for the hands. After tayammum, then I bathe. And I cannot wash this part of my body because there is bandage. Why in bathing the obligatory bath there is no sequence? I have the choice to take tayammum or washing, because in bathing there is no sequence. Wudu there is sequence. So I have the choice whether I want to do tayammum first or bathing first. Which is better? Tayammum first. So I do tayammum, then I bathe. And I avoid any washing any day, body part that has a bandage. I only wet it. I wet it with water. And then after that, I perform my prayers. I perform my prayers with ablution. Tamam? I perform the Zuhur prayer. Now we are talking about junub. A person is in a state of janaba. He does the tayammum after the timing prayer has come. He does the tayammum and he bathes the obligatory bath. And he takes ablution. The injury is here. So this is not part of the wudu area. No issue. Taking wudu, no problem. This is at the chest. So he do the obligatory bath, he do the tayammum, and he takes any ablution. And he performs the Zuhur prayers. Now the question is, when the time of Asr comes, he has bathed his obligatory bath earlier, correct or not? When the time of Asr comes, is it compulsory upon him to bathe again? This is the question. Is it compulsory upon him to do the obligatory bath again? So here the author mentioned that it is not wajib to do the obligatory bath again. What is wajib is to do the tayammum again. Yani he takes wudu and then he does any the tayammum. Or he does any the tayammum, then he takes any wudu. So in this instance, why is he doing tayammum? He is doing tayammum not because of wudu. Not because of the bandage is at the body parts of wudu. The bandage is here. Why is it compulsory upon him to do tayammum for every time any he pray the obligatory prayer? Because this part any of the body is not covered by water when he bathe the obligatory bath. So here any the author any mention it is not compulsory upon him to bathe again. But what is compulsory is that every time any he perform the 5 times daily prayers, he has to renew his tayammum because one tayammum is for one obligatory prayer. So since any this particular body part any has not been washed by water when he bathed the obligatory bath, then he has any to perform any the tayammum for every prayer that he is praying. So he said, فَإِنْ أَرَادَ فَرْضًا آخَرَ. If he wants to pray another fard, see, the author used the word fard because sunnah no problem. Sunnah prayers, one tayammum you can do many all the sunnah prayers, but not any the fard prayers. Fard prayers here refers to Zuhur, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, Subuh. So he has to take any tayammum, he has to do any tayammum for every prayer, inclusive of ablution. Inclusive of ablution. Lam yu'id junubu ghuslan. For the junub, yani the person who has janaba, it is not any compulsory any upon him any to wash, to bathe again. Wa kazal muhdis. Likewise, the person who is taking ablution, it is not compulsory upon him to take wudu again. What is it? What is any the meaning? Now, for wudu, the example is like this. Now is the time of Zuhr prayer. So I have bandage at my right hand. I have bandage any on my right hand. So I take ablution. I wash any my face. Then I do tayammum for the bandage. And then I wash any the other body parts. Wipe the head and wash any my feet. Then I perform my Zuhr prayers. I perform my Zuhr prayers. Now when the time of Asr comes, I still have ablution. I still have wudu. Do I need any to do tayammum again? To pray Asr? Now I have bandage here. Do I need to do tayammum again? Yes, because one tayammum for one fard prayer. Do I have to take wudu again? No. If I have wudu, no need for me to take wudu again. I only have to take tayammum. But if I don't have wudu, then I have any to do the whole process again. But here the author is saying about a person who still have the ablution. If he still has the ablution, there is no need for him to take ablution again. He just have to do tayammum only, just like the person who is having the janaba, the junub. Exactly. The junub, and we said earlier that he doesn't have to bathe again, correct or not? He has only to do the tayammum again. Likewise, and if a person who has bandage on his hands or legs, he does any the wudu in the first prayer. The second prayer comes, if he still have wudu, there is no need any for him any to wash the body parts any again. What he needs to do is only to do the tayammum. And this is the prevailing judgment in our mazhab, qawlul mu'tamad, because after this the author mentioned a weak any opinion. And this particular opinion is the opinion of Imam Rafi'i that is not practiced. But he mentioned, the author and he mentioned, he said, وَقِيلَ يَغْسِلُ مَا بَعْدَ عَلِيلِهِ. This is a weak opinion. There is an opinion by Imam Rafi'i that it says that it is compulsory for the person who uh, uh, has any bandage on the body parts any of wudu, that he wash the parts after that bandage. For example, I have any bandage any on my right hand. So I during Zohor time I take ablution and I take my tayammum. When comes any to the Asr, I have to do tayammum again, correct or not? But this opinion says that I have to wash the body parts after the bandage. What are the body parts any after the bandage? Now the bandage any is on my right hand. What are the body parts any after my hands? I have to wipe any my head and I have to wash any my feet. This is any the weak opinion that is saying that I do not have to wash my face. What I have to do is I have to wash the body parts after the bandage. That is why he say waqila yaghsilu ma ba'da alilihi. Alil any is the part any of the injury or the part any of the bandage. Bismillah. But anyway, this is a weak opinion. Normally, any people and you do not any practice any this opinion. Then he mentioned wa in wudi'a bila tuhrin wajaba naz'u. Again, the author and he emphasized. The author is trying to emphasize. If you put your bandage and you are not in a state of ablution, wajaba naz'u. You have to remove that bandage. Fa in khafa fa'ala ma taqaddama. If he fears harm, then he does what has been mentioned. Yani, he continues in his wudu and tayammum. Wa huwa asimun. This is the prevailing judgment of madhab. Wa huwa asimun. He is sinful. Why is he sinful? When he does a sin and he come from? Now any sins and we say is wajib. Not any doing something that is wajib is sinful. What is any the thing that is wajib that he's referring to? To be in a state of ablution when applying the bandage. That is wajib. So the author any emphasized any on this 2 times and he emphasized in Umdah. 2 times and he emphasized any on this. Tamam. Wa huwa asimun wa yu'idu salah, and it is compulsory that he has to make up any for the prayers if the bandage is placed when he is not in a state of ablution. After this, and inshallah, I will give you some notes. I will discuss any on this thoroughly when you have to make qada and no need any to make any qada with regard any to bandages. But we just run through this first. Inshallah, we still have some time. The author mentioned wala yu'idu in wudi'a ala tuhrin walam yakun fi a'da'i tayammum. So here the author is going to discuss about whether you have to make up your prayer or you do not make up any for the prayer. Point number 1, and he said that there is no need for you to make up any for the prayer in wudi'a ala tuhrin, as what we mentioned. If you put the bandage when you are in a state of wudu, there is no need for you to make up any of your prayers. No need for you to make up any of your prayers. Walam yakun fi a'da'i tayammum. This is the second condition. So all of you any put number 1. Condition number 1 is in wudi'a ala tuhrin. If he place the bandage while he is in a state of ablution, this is condition number 1. No need for him to make up the prayer. Condition number 2, the bandage is not on the body parts of tayammum. That is the face and the hands. The prevailing judgment in our madhab is that if the bandage is on the body parts of tayammum, you have to make qada mutlaqan, without any exception. This is condition number 2. Wala man yatayammama li maradin aw jurhin bila satir. This is a different thing. The author mentioned that if a person doesn't apply bandage, if a person doesn't apply any bandage, then no need for him to make qada. His prayers are valid. There is no any bandage. Either he washes the wound or he wipes the wound and with dust. Tamam. No need for him to make qada. Illa min man bijurihi damun kasir. Unless if a person experience there's a lot of blood, too many blood on his wound. Yakhafu min ghuslihi fayu'idu, that he fear to wash it. Then it is compulsory upon him to make up for the prayers. If there is excessive bleeding, that he is unable to wash the body parts because of the fear that it can lead to serious situations. A person can die if there is a lot of bleeding and then he applies water. That is suicidal. So if that is the case, he just perform his prayers and there is no need for him and it is compulsory upon him to make the qada, the i'ada. Walau khafa min shiddatil bard. Then the author mentioned that if a person doesn't use the water because of too cold. If the weather is too cold, you are in Antarctica, for example. There is water, but you cannot use water and there is no heater. No heater. He said, "Walau khafa min shiddatil bardi maradan mimma taqaddama wa lam yaqdir ala taskhinil ma." So he fears that if he uses the water, he might die. Too cold. And there is no heater or anything that can heat the water or anything to warm up his body. Tayammama wa a'ada. He does the tayammum and then he make up for the prayers. make up any for the prayer. So basically the author says that if a person does tayammum because of too cold, then making up of prayers is compulsory. وَمَنْ فَقَدَ مَاءً وَتُرَابًا وَجَبَ أَنْ يُصَلِّيَ الْفَرْضَ وَحْدَهُ. If a person doesn't have water and dust, then he just perform the obligatory prayers. Just like if a person is on top of a mountain, there is no water and there is no dust. So he just perform any prayers without water and without tayammum. وَيُعِيدُهُ. Then it's compulsory for him to make up. إِذَا وَجَدَ الْمَاءَ أَوِ التُّرَابِ. If he finds any water or dust, he has any to make up. He has any to make up any for the prayer. حَيْثُ يُسْقِطُ التَّيَمُّمْ الْإِعَادَةِ. This is a situation where the author mentioned now a person prays Zuhur without water, without tayammum. Without water, without tayammum. So he just perform the fard prayers. He cannot perform the sunnah prayers. Only the fard prayers. That's why he say wahdahu. Al-fard wahdahu. Only perform the fard prayers. This is hurmatul waqt. Salah of hurmatul waqt. So he perform the fard prayers. And then comes the time of Asr. The time of Asr, he found dust. Is it compulsory upon him to use the dust to make up for the Zuhur prayer? It depends. If the dust that he has, he is in a place where normally there is no water, then he has to use the dust and make up for the prayer. Because now making up for the prayer is not compulsory if you are in a place where normally there is no water. So when you do any tayammum, your making up of prayers is valid. Because otherwise you have to make up the prayer again. If you use the dust and do tayammum at a place where normally there is water, then there is no point for you to make up any of the prayer at that instance. Because you know that you're making up a prayer at that instance and you need to make up of the prayer that you prayed. So there is no need for you to make up for the prayer. Unless if you find any water, that is a different situation. Then you make up for the prayers. So that is why the author mentioned haisu yusqitu tayammum al-i'ada fala yu'idu idza wajada turaban fil hadar. But if a person finds any dust at a place where normally there is water, al-hadar here meaning normally there is water, no need for him to do making up any of the prayers. That's what I mentioned. Because by making up of the prayers, you are in need to make up for the prayers that you made up. So there is no point in doing it. Because doing tayammum in a place where normally there is water, you have to make up for your prayers. Just like in Singapore, for example, if you do tayammum in Singapore, you have to do qada. Correct or not? Because normally places like Singapore, Malaysia, there is water. So if you do tayammum, you have to make up for your prayers. I will just stop here. And then if you go back into our notes, I gave some notes. Can the admin post the translation? There is a poem. I don't know whether the poster, maybe the poster. Where? The latest one. Okay. Okay. So there is this poem that speaks about the foundation whether we have to make qada or no qada. This is mentioned in Hashiyah of Al-Imam Bayjuri. Yeah? So we students in Robat, last time every student has to memorize this poem. Because this particular poem summarizes everything. So he said, wala tu'id. Now the Arabic word, wala tu'id. Tu'id meaning it is not compulsory for you to make up for the prayers, was satru qadr al-illati. If the bandage is just covering the injury. So if the bandage just covers the injury, no need for you to make up for the prayer. Or qadr al-istimsaki. Qadr al-istimsak, as what I mentioned, that the bandage only cover the part that is needed to be covered. Just like the bandage wraps around the arm because we need to tighten the wound, then it is permissible. So in this situation, there is no need to make qada. Wa in yazid an qadrihi fa'id. Yani if you put the bandage more than what is needed to cover, then making up of the prayers is compulsory. Aid here meaning it is compulsory for you to make up any for the prayers. Wa mutlaqan wa huwa biwajhin aw yadi. But if you put the bandage, if the bandage is at the face or the hands, mutlaqan you have to make the qada at all situation. And then mashallah, and there is this if you look any at the uh what you call it, the but before that I put that there's khilaf in this. The reason I put there's khilaf, a lot of people any ask in this question because of the difficulty any in this. Because in our Mazhab Imam Shafi'i, the prevailing any judgment is that if your bandage is on the face, on the hands, you have to make qada at all costs. I have a lot of people asking me, then what is the point of us doing tayammum then? A lot of people then you will ask any the question that if I have to make up any for my prayers, then what is any the point of me praying? And some people and even ask this kind of question. Because our scholars already mentioned that if your bandage is on your face or hands, you have to make up any for the prayer. Regardless. Regardless whether you put the bandage when you are in the state of wudu or not in the state of wudu. Whether your bandage any covers just only any your injury or more than your injury. So whatever that we mentioned any earlier is all any apply to either the face and the hands. If the bandage is on your head or your feet, then you can apply any this what is mentioned any in this poem with regards any to the possibility of making our prayers any is not compulsory. But as far as the bandage is on your face and on your hands, then making up any is compulsory. A lot of people ask any this question last time when I teach this. A lot of people and a lot of students and you will ask any this question. Then what is the point of me doing any tayammum when I take any my ablution, when I have any to make up any for my prayer? The answer yani to this, and we say this is ta'abbud. This is ta'abbud. Yani this is what yani the Sharia yani has made it any compulsory any upon us. By observing this, we are fulfilling any our obligation. So our obligation yani is to take wudu and do tayammum. At the same time, our obligation yani is to make up any for the prayers. So this is any the first situation. The second any situation, this is where I put here khilafan. There is a difference. Imam Nawawi, Sheikh Ibn Hajar Al-Haythami, and Al-Imam Al-Jarhazi, three of them mention that there is no such thing. This is good news any for us. That is why yani I put any this khilaf any before anyone accuse me of going any against the qawl al-mu'tamad. We have opinions any by these three great imams, and this is good news for us. What are they saying? They say that the face and the hands bandage that are placed on the face and the hands, the ruling and is the same as bandage that are placed other than the face of the hands. MashaAllah. And I feel any this is any the opinion that we hold on to make it easy any upon us. Imagine any you have a friend asking you a question. He has a bandage any on his right hand. He has a bandage any on his right hand. And he has been taking wudu and tayammum, and he has performed prayers for 2 months. And then after 2 months, and you tell him you have to make qada. And some people, mashallah, their iman is strong. They say 2 months, no issue. I make qada. Right? I mean, if a person wants to follow the qawl mu'taman, that is the best. But what is any the way out? The way out any is that we look any at the nature of the bandage. That's what we mentioned. And if the bandage any only covers part any of the injury or just the injury itself, and the rest any is just any to needed any to tighten the injury, then he puts the bandage in a state of ablution. That's what we mentioned. Then there is no need any for him any to do i'adah. This making up any of the prayers. And this is a better any opinion, especially in the times that we are in. The times any that we are in to tell people to pray is something that is difficult. Yani if you can find any Muslim any prays, or especially any a youth, a teenager that is performing the 5 times daily prayers, make shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So normally people nowadays, and you tell them any you have to make up any of your prayers. And if his injury, for example, any 1 year casting, 1 year bandage, So you tell him that you have to make up all your prayers. He might not be able to do it. Then we have this opinion. We have this opinion of Al-Imam Nawawi that he says that there is no need to make up the prayers if the conditions apply. Two conditions. What are the two conditions? You put the bandage when you are still in a wudu. The second condition is that your bandage does not take up too much space. Other than the injury, and what is needed to tighten the injury. Okay, can you show the poster again? And then the meaning. If you look at the meaning, the below part. So no need. This poster it says. Afwan, just bring down a bit. Okay, you look at the green one. It says no need to repeat the prayer when the covering bandage extend only to the extent of the wound. This is what we mentioned. Number two, the extent necessary to keep it secure, just like the bandage. I hope this is clear. So no need to repeat the prayer. And then the condition also that it must be placed when he is in a state of wudu. Then the red one, if it exceeds the necessary extent, the bandage covers more than what is needed for the wound to secure it during purification, then the prayer must be repeated after recovery. Exception, except when the bandage is on the face or the hands. In this case, there is no need to repeat the prayer, even it extends beyond the necessary area. This is based on the qawl and mu'tamad. I think there is a mistake here. When the bandage is on the face. When the bandage is on the face or the hands, you have to make up for the prayer. Clear? So there is a mistake. So please take note. Do not circulate this. The purple part. If you look at the purple part, no need to repeat the prayer even if it extends beyond the necessary prayers. This is a mistake. I'm sorry. Have to do it again. Then we have the contrary opinions, Imam Nawawi, Ibn Hajar, and Al-Jarhazi. Al-Jarhazi, he wrote a hashia on the commentary of Muqaddimah Hadramiyah. He wrote a hashia that is on the commentary of Sheikh Ibn Hajar. Manhajul Qawim. Sheikh Ibn Hajar wrote a commentary of Muqaddimah Hadramiyah. He named it Manhajul Qawim Sharh Masail Ta'lim. Then Imam Jarhazi came and wrote a hashia on it. This hashia is very famous. So we call it the hashia of Al-Imam Jarhazi. Wallahu alam bisawab. Now we take in the questions and inshallah ta'ala. Okay, we have this. Can you elaborate why is it a sin to put a bandage before being in a state of purity? I mentioned earlier that this is based on qiyas on Khuff. Just like it is wajib for you to wash your feet before you put on your Khuff, likewise, you have to wash your body parts before you put on bandage. So the ruling is the same as the Khuff. That is why it is wajib. When the injury happened, the person is not in a state of purity, but he needs to be bandaged to stop the bleeding, or perhaps a cast to do to fracture. In this situation, he still prays his obligatory prayers with the intention to do his qada when he has fully recovered. Is it sinful for him, even though he does all this? I mentioned earlier that if is almost impossible for him to take ablution because of fracture, then he is forgiven. He is forgiven. Okay, after he puts his bandage or casting, is it possible for him to take it out and take ablution and put it back again? If it is possible, then it is compulsory. If it is not possible, then he just continue. And then he has to make up any further prayers. So here we say if there is a possibility, if there is a possibility of him removing it and taking any ablution, then placing it again. And I mentioned that normally doctors they have these appointments that bandage and casting has to be replaced every 2 weeks or every 1 month. During that time, you can make sure that you can take the ablution, and then you place the bandage. Okay. Assalamualaikum. Waalaikum salam. My mom had left eye operation. Doctor advised water cannot touch the left eye for 1 month. Therefore, to perform tayammum, the question is if unable to find dust What is the alternative? The alternative any is uh, the dust that are on the walls, or any dust any from any part any of the house, any for example outside any the house. If a person any doesn't find any dust, we can follow the opinion of Imam Abu Hanifa, the Hanafi madhab, that says that any type any of dust any suffices. So dust any on top any of cupboards, dust any on the walls can be used any for tayammum. But usually any for dust, if you are living in places like Singapore, you can find dust. There are people even selling in shops. You can buy them. You can buy any dust. You can find them any on even online, I think. Or even any you can anywhere where you can find soil, you can take the soil and extract any the dust any from it. If not any, then we follow the opinion of Al Imam Abu Hanifa. If a person really cannot find dust, then he just take wudu. Then he i'ada, yani he make up for the prayers. Can my mom renew her tayammum without taking wudu for the next fardu if her wudu is still valid? Yes, this is exactly what we mentioned earlier. That if she still has wudu, and the next time the next prayer comes, she has to renew the tayammum only. No need any for her to take. No need for her to take wudu. Is that all? Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali sayyidina Muhammad. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adhaban nar. Sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi sallam. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Taqabbalallahu minkum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.